Hello everybody, welcome to another con support video. This one is on part to whole ratios. So let's go through this. All right. So it says here that Colton has 8 comedy movies, 6 action movies, 5 fantasy movies, and 1 drama movie on his list of favorite movies. For every 5 movies on the list, there are 2 blank movies. So let's just first take a look at what he's got here. All right, so let's analyze what he actually has. So when we look at the situation we're presented with here, we know the final ratio is going to be the number of movies to particular type of movies, right? So when we think about this, you're really going to be looking at part to whole. All right. So in this case, for number 1 here, let's do it so we can all see it a little better. I would be thinking that this is going to be a part to whole. But we first got to figure out what is the whole here, right? So the whole is the movies on the list. That's the whole. And the part that he's working with here, let's see if I can make that a little neater. The part that he's working with here, the specific part, right? It could be the type of movie. So it could be, for example, it could be comedy, it could be action, it could be fantasy, it could be drama, right? But before we figure all this out, this is his list of favorite movies, right? How many favorite movies does he have? How many favorites does he have? Well, let's count them up. So you got 8 comedy movies, right? There's 8 comedy. There are, that's funny, I can't spell comedy. Comedy, there we go. There are 6 action movies. There are 5 fantasy movies. And there is only 1 drama. He's not a big drama fan. Okay, so the total is going to be the total number of movies on his list, right? Which is what we want as our whole. So what's 8 plus 6? That's 14. 14 plus 5 is going to be 19, and 19 plus 1 is 20. So there's 20 movies on the list. So what's the total here? 20. So we have a total of 20. Now it says for every 5 movies on the list, there are 2 blank movies. Okay, that's kind of weird, right? So for 5 movies on the list. So we're looking down here and saying, all right, that's out of 20, 1 out of every 5, right? So for out of every 5 movies on the list, there are 2. So there's going to be 2 here. 2. Okay, cool. So we want 2 out of every 5. So 2 what out of every 5, right? Well, in order to be 2 out of every 5, how many out of every 20 would that be, right? So when we think about this relationship, right, 2/5, that would be the same as what out of 20? Let's just write it out all in one line and make it easier for you guys to see. So if we have the new total of 5, we know the new total is 2 here, right? What would be the equivalent ratio out of 20, right? Well, 5 times 4 is 20, right? So 2 times 4 would be the amount out of 20, right? And 2 times 4 is 8. So we're looking for which one is 8. And we can see that is very clearly going to be what? Comedy. So if we have 20 of the total list, out of every 5 movies, how many would be 2? 2 out of 5 would be the same as 8 out of 20, which means it's going to be the same as the comedy because there's 8 out of 20, 8 comedies out of the 20 total. So this would be your equivalent ratio, and that's it. So comedy, and that's your answer. Let's do the next one here. Scroll down. All right, cool. So of a squirrel's hidden nuts, for every 5 that get found, there are 3 that do not get found. A squirrel hid 40 nuts altogether. How many of the nuts did not get found? Well, this one's a little more straightforward because it's got less categories. So let's just go through number 2 here. So it basically says there's a ratio, right? For every hidden nut, for every 5 that get found, there are 3 that do not get found, right? So I'm just going to write found on top and not found on bottom. That's one ratio we have, right? And then we can also think about found out of the total and not found out of the total. These are other ratios that we can think about, right? So let's just write all these out. And we'll kind of talk about them. All right, so it says that for every 5 that get found, there are 3 that do not get found. So for every 5 that get found, there are 3 that do not get found. Well, that means that for the found, it's going to be 5 when the total is 8. And for the not found, it's going to be 3 when the total is 8. So 5 out of 8 get found, and 3 out of 8 do not get found, right, or not found. Then it asks, a squirrel hid 40 nuts altogether. How many of the nuts get found? So which is the one we want to look at? We want to look at this ratio of found to total, right? So we're going to use the 5 out of 8 relationship, okay? So that tells us that we're going to have 5 out of 8, the number of found out of the total, is equivalent to how many that were found out of 40. And then we can just look at the relationship there and say, oh, 8 times 5 is 40. So that means that 5 times 5 must be the answer. And we say the answer is 25, right? So there are 25 found nuts out of every 40 nuts that the squirrel hides. Okay, and so that's the answer. Well, this one actually says how many of the nuts do not get found. Oh, do not get found. That's funny. So if 25 get found, then 15 obviously do not get found. So I actually selected the wrong ratio because I was being sloppy when I read it. Silly me. So we're actually going to be looking at this one over here, which is going to be not found compared to total. It's going to be 3 out of 8. Same process. So this time it would be 3 out of 8, which is going to be equal to something out of 40. And as we talked about, times top and bottom by 5. And you're going to see that that would be the remaining 15, right? So that means that 15 were not found out of every 40 nuts. So it says how many of the nuts do not get found, and that would be 15. Good thing I read it carefully, right? All right, let's go to the next one. So number 3 here. Let's do number 3. It says at a school party there are 40 cookies. The ratio of chocolate to oatmeal cookies is shown in the tape diagram. Okay, so you can see that chocolate is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and oatmeal is 1, 2, 3. So there's several ratios that you could write from this. You could say chocolate to oatmeal. That's one ratio that you can talk about, and that would be the ratio of 5 to 3, right? You can also do the ratio of chocolate to total, which would be in this case 5 to 8. And you can do the ratio of oatmeal to total, which would be the remaining 3 to 8. Right? 5/8 of the cookies are chocolate cookies, and 3/8 of the cookies are oatmeal cookies. So it says how many oatmeal cookies were at the party if there were 40 cookies in all. So they want to know how many oatmeal cookies are at the party. So which one are we going to use? We're going to use oatmeal to total. So we want the equivalent ratio when the total is 40. We're going to times the bottom by 5, so times the top by 5. So once again, this is going to be 15 as the answer, right? So you'd say there are 15 oatmeal cookies out of the 40 cookies in all. And that would be your answer, 15. Okay, and then this next problem here, let's see if I can do this one on a new page. Why not? Let me just scroll down here. All right, cool. I'm going to zoom in a little bit even more. All right, and let's do this last one, number 4. So it says the table shows the number of insects by type Bobby saw on a picnic. So it has the insect and it has the number of insects that he noticed. This guy's very particular. He counted all of his insects. Who does that? Select the true statements about the information in the table. All right, this is an interesting one. So it says the ratio of flies to all insects is 1 to 5. Okay, well, let's just look at this table, right? So what do we know? We got fly is 8. We got ant is 22. We've got bee is 4. And we've got ladybug, which is going to be only 6. If you add it all together, the total amount of observed insects would be 30 plus 10, which is 40. right? So it's all out of 40. So it says choose all that apply. The ratio of flies to insects is 1 to 5. Well, let's look at flies. Flies is 8, and insects would be 40. So the fly is going to be 8 out of every 40. Is that, like they say, the same as 1 out of every 5? And the answer is yes, it is, because 40 divided by 8 is 5, and 8 divided by 8 is 1. So if you divide top and bottom by 8, or a giant 1, you get an equivalent ratio of 1/5. So yes, I agree with that one. That's proven correct. For every 1 bee, there are 10 insects. Okay, so that's bee to insects, right? That's bee to total. So let's look at the bee situation here. There's 4 bees out of every 40 insects. So the bee situation is 4 out of every 40, right? Is that the same as 1 bee for every 10? And I think when you guys look at that, you're going to be like, yeah, that works, right? Because 40 divided by 4 is 10, and 4 divided by 4 is 1. So divide by 4 over 4, which is a giant 1, get equivalent ratio. Yeah, 4 out of every 40 is the same as 1 out of every 10. So that makes sense. For every 1 bee, there are 10 insects. I agree with that. And then none of the above obviously is wrong. And that's it. That's how you do these problems. Just be careful about what your ratios are and what you're using for your ratios. All right, hopefully that helped.